Maureen, thanks for coming to our March Legislative Forum. We have Representative Henry Stone and Senator Dave Rowley here, and I'll let them take it over, and feel free to ask questions after they give their couple of comments about what's been going on.
Okay. Go ahead, Dave. Oh, well, I was going to defer to the House, but that's just fine. So where we're at now, we went through the first funnel. We've started debate on several bills that have gone to the governor. One bill that I was intimately involved in, Floor Manage, I felt was very important in the insurance industry, commerce. And it may not seem like much, but it's a bill that actually extends a non-renewal notice to you on your homeowners from 30 days minimum in the state of Iowa to 60 days. And the reason this is important is because we're running into a situation in Iowa right now where reinsurers, coverage companies, you may or may not know we had four insurance companies leave the state of Iowa writing personal lines this last year. And one of the reasons is reinsurance costs, the cost of rebuilding. And what was left is companies then having to take that burden of more and more business, which affects their capacity and ability to write. It affects premiums that go up. And there's only three things an insurance company can do. They can non-renew policies due to new underwriting guidelines. They can raise premiums, or they can exit that market or exit that line of business. So this is really, it's an important one. That's one of those behind the scenes. 92% of us are all, it's a very bipartisan bill, and it helps support everything in the state of Iowa. So I was glad to get that done. That's going to the governor for signature, and I'm very happy to see that being done. Just a side note, being from that industry, I work a lot in the commerce committee in order to take care of and take a hard look at reinsurers as well, take a look at school insurance, to take a look at all the things that affect our state. You may or may not know this, but behind agriculture, which is number one, right? But insurance is number two. And in fact, we're like the little Hartford. I mean, we really are. Actually, we are the Hartford. We could throw them away, actually. So in the state of Iowa, these are issues that affect all of us as consumers, helps to keep our costs down and our quality of life and ability to enjoy our economy, that much more important. Bills that came through that were out there, we had one on the naming of meat, making sure labeling is proper so that if any companies are out there using false advertising, saying something is beef or a hamburger or something along that line, but it's made up of plant material or insects or some other, derivative or additive that comes from some other source. That bill was passed in order to protect the labeling of that. It's interesting how in agriculture, as I mentioned that earlier, we are number one. And we have a lot of cattle producers and pork producers along that line. And we're just surrounded by all these pressures, to get into that market and try to use and falsely use those sort of names. So that was an interesting bill. We did not debate as much as the House did, and I'm sure Representative Stone's going to shame me here because I can always blame it on leadership. But it's been one of those weeks where we ran maybe 25, 30 bills on 25, 26 bills actually on the floor this week. A lot of my time was spent in subcommittee and handling the House files that are coming over right now. And I am really kind of apprehensive about next week because you guys are sending over tons of bills. And so what that means is that then we in the Senate, we're assigned those bills or they're bills that we're working on with our rep, and we start to get involved in that in a big way. So we're going to have a full schedule the next couple weeks leading up to the second funnel. But you know what? I'm here to hear your questions and just to hear what's on your mind today. So I'll just stop there.
Yeah, so I'll tell you this about Senator Rowley. He'll never take credit for this, but when it comes to the insurance world, it's a huge deal. It's a huge market for the state of Iowa. We lead the nation. We are number one in the nation for insurance carriers and their home bases here in Iowa. And that's his line of work. Like he he protects that industry and makes sure that they're on the right track for all of us and for what we do. So he actually is always at the forefront of those discussions and issues. So I'm very proud to serve with him, and when he takes those issues on and tries to get those protections, it means a lot. So I guess everybody knows that I kind of, my main focus is in the education realm. Senator Rowley is, he's right, that they did 25, 30 bills, and we've done 25, 30 bills in one night. And we've been debating for 2 weeks. So they do have quite a number of bills that are coming over. We did pass SSA in the House at 3%. So they'll take up that debate with the numbers that they're comfortable with and what the governor is. We did pass the House bill on AEAs. One thing that we did do that I'm proud that his predecessor, Senator Guth, has worked diligently on. Ted actually, Representative Gassman has worked on was RFRA for over 10 years. That has been tried to come through, and we were finally able to do it last night. So I'm proud. So that's headed down to the governor for her signature. So some of the other things though that we passed in the House, we expanded cancer coverage for firefighters and first responders. We did prior authorizations in healthcare to minimize and bring down the wait times that you get from doctors, that if there are prior authorizations that need to be handled, they need to take those in account before they see the patient. Theft of public funds, which actually has impacted North Central Iowa, where government officials, people that work at city offices and county offices, have stolen thousands and tens of thousands of dollars from taxpayers. And then they get deferred judgments, which means they don't serve any time, they don't go to jail, nothing like that. And so we put those protections in. Actually, we did that last night. So we passed a social studies standards bill. A little controversial, and I'm sure there's going to be some discussion on that, but I welcome that. We also, something that I worked on was a priority for our caucus, was school safety. Actually, I served on it. We have, so one bill in particular is kind of gaining traction and is all the focus is on, but we have numerous bills. I sat on a sub yesterday to discuss infrastructure changes on hardening schools, things like that, making sure we have the funding for that as well. I push for that. I don't believe that if we're going to ask our schools to do something, that we should give them funds to accomplish that as well, or at least take away the handcuffs that allow them to actually implement those changes. So I fought for getting rid of the silos. We did that last year. There are a few left. Even those, I believe that we should just, I differ from some of my colleagues, but I believe we should just give the money to the schools and let them do what they want to do with the money. So I don't, these are issues that hopefully I can move on and, take up a more, a more forward-thinking role with my leadership role and with the other leaders in the House. Maybe we can start to move that way with input from superintendents and principals. And then we also did a school standards review, which is another thing that my predecessors in the House and the Senate have worked on, and it's headed over to the Senate now, and that is for our standards, our school standards in school, to be updated and to have that review done when it comes to Common Core. So essentially, Common Core will no longer exist in Iowa. A new standard review is, once it gets through the Senate and the governor signs it, the Department of Education will implement and start to, we've asked them to create a task force to take this study on. There's no rush in this. We will have, in the bill, it says that they will have those standards, the new standards, back to us by the end of the year, but there's no implementation. What we don't want to do is we don't want to put the schools and the school districts in a bad position where they're rushed to do something, but we want to raise the standards back in Iowa to where they used to be, and so that's our goal. That was my goal. That was my input on this bill. So I was glad to do it, and to make sure that we get our kids back on track. So enough from me. Want to hear if you guys have any questions or concerns or anything like that. So
I think first I just wanted to thank you guys for the work you did in the House on considering a lot of different viewpoints, because and specifically the AEA bill, you probably guessed that's what I was referring to, but at the same time, I think we've all been lulled into this feeling of like gratitude because the first bill was so bad, and now it feels like we're supposed to be grateful for this AEA bill that passed. But I guess I'm wondering, why didn't we just consider a review? Like, I know that amendment was thrown out there. I know when you were here last